and welcome to the very first episode of the CUDDLEPUNK Podcast. I am your host, Veronica Vext. For this very special, very first episode of the CUDDLEPUNK Podcast, it is over 100 degrees here in Chicago, so we had to get the hottest new band in all of Chicago. Ellie, Peach, and Dean from Meridia are here. Everybody introduce yourselves, say hi.
Hello.
Hi. Did that even pick up? My thing didn't go green.
It definitely picked up. I think we're
Okay.
good. All right, so the whole time that I have been hearing about Meridia existing, I have kind of been thinking about it as like kind of a Chicago supergroup in a way where like you have people from Normalcy, you have people from Cleveland Avenue, you have people from a bunch of different like Chicago bands in this band at this point. What is the like specific story of like Meridia coming together as it is right now?
Oh man, so
That's a great question.
I mean,
With a long answer.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about like the specific group right now, it started. Well, actually, no, even before that, because you met Adam and Kevin from Cleveland. Fuck yeah, because like we met for Normalcy.
This is approximately no less than the fourth Meridia. So I started Meridia back somewhere in the realm of like 2017, 2018. I had been through like bands and stuff. But like things just, sometimes you don't, it doesn't go your way. And I've always been in a boat where like I've joined bands as opposed to being there for the start for a lot of them. So I started Meridia because I wanted to, have something that I could really, make mine. And the next, probably like 4 or 5 years were just processes of getting lineups and things don't work out and the timing's always wrong and blah, blah, blah. And then in 2021, I met Adam. I joined Cleveland Avenue. That's how I met Adam and Kevin and Maud. And then through Maud, I ended up meeting Dean. I had started, I'd say probably in like June of 2021. I came back to Meridia and I started it up with Adam and Kevin and a couple of buddies from bands that I had been in like the year or two prior. And they didn't end up sticking around. So I kind of went on the back burner, and then I met Dean playing in Normalcy with Maud, and we got Dean on. Kept up with that lineup up until this August, September last year.
We're about a year, pretty close to a year to the day to bring Ellie on.
Yeah, of this lineup. That's when we had Ellie come on. So yeah, I mean, all things considered, this Meridia is still pretty young, and thankfully the only one that's accomplished something so far. So, it's a long path, but we're finally there, or at least for us, it feels like, oh my God, we're finally there.
Yeah, it's like we haven't like done anything public until obviously like a month ago, but it's like, how the hell have we been through so much without like doing nothing?
I remember being like one of the first people that you followed on Twitter in like April of this year.
Yeah.
And then everything else started coming kind of after that. Like you would hear like little bits and pieces of like, oh, these people have something like cooking that's going to be really cool for the end of the summer.
Yeah, because I remember telling you a bunch of it, like emo night, whenever we go to Beauty Bar. Like just info dumping on you when I'm like a couple Malort shots deep.
That's kind of what this show is people info dumping on me when they're a couple of Malort shots deep.
Real. Yeah, but to kind of like add on like what PJ was saying, like I still remember like very like clearly like that first Normalcy practice for like that show. Like within an hour of like us meeting, PJ's like, hey, you got a band? I'm like, nah. He's like, do you want one? I'm like, sure.
A pretty quick exchange. Yeah,
it honestly was like that's probably a little bit exaggerated, but also like not that much.
I mentioned it in passing, and then we didn't talk for a month, and then I sent you a message and you were like, yep.
Yeah, and then next thing you know, I had tabs in my email,
whole bunch of Guitar Pro.
Oh yeah.
We know that Peach wanted to start the band. We know that Dean was like a little bit later on. Ellie, what was your introduction to Meridia?
So one of the folks that was involved in the lineup at one point had actually introduced me to the rest of the group. And there was, I think it was one or two songs that they were like, because background, I've been in the tribute cover band scene for a while in a band called Fueled by Emo. Um, and so I kind of gained a little bit of traction from that and met this person and got brought into this project. And I think there were 2 songs that they gave me and said, hey, we're not really sure what to do with these as of right now, but go crazy, see what you come up with and hit us back. And I think I sent back the first one and that was it. Like it was September of 2022.
Knocked it out of the park in fucking 24 hours.
I-
They give me a whole lot of props
Yeah,
for
you were
doing
you were
that.
you were at like the next practice after you sent that. We heard that and we were like, all right.
Oh, word?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it
Yeah.
was I think it was like I don't know if it was 24 hours. I think it was like 3 days.
Wasn't very long. Quick.
It
I
wasn't
don't
long
think it
at
was even
all.
that long. Yeah.
But yeah, it was like I just jumped on it because it was like, oh, as soon as I heard the music, I knew that this was like the right place for me, and I needed to knock it out of the park. So I like just really crunched hard on it.
I'm fascinated by you saying that you were or are in like a tribute band in Chicago. I feel like it doesn't really get brought up that much how massive the like cover band scene is in Chicago. Can you give like a little, like, I know a decent amount about it from people that I've known who have been in these bands. Can you give like an idea of what the Chicago cover band scene is like? Because it's absolutely insane.
It is insane. There's a lot of bands, a lot of different groups. The tribute scene is great. The cover scene is great. I mean, you'll always have other bands to play with. There's always bars and venues that are looking for shows. And I've really enjoyed. I've been in the cover scene for 5 years, and Fueled by Emo has kind of made a name for themselves in that world. But I've sort of reached a point where performing other people's music is really fun, especially when it's artists that you love. But there comes a point where you feel like you have to put some of yourself into it, more of yourself into it. And it's not as gratifying as creating and practicing and performing your own songs is. And so that's what led me here. And it really, joining the tribute scene, being in a cover band was something that I did because I was in a place 5 or 6 years ago where I had come out of college and I wanted to make music, but I didn't know anybody. And what's the easiest way to make connections? Play music that a lot of people know, meet other musicians, and then if you find other like-minded people that enjoy the same artists that you do and are inspired by the same people, eventually, like, if you surround yourself with musicians, you will just like those people just happen to you. And that's kind of what happened.
That's awesome. You said that the like those first 2 songs were the ones that really got you into and like being interested in the band. Dean was telling me when we saw each other at Lollapalooza that some of the songs or a lot of the songs on this first EP are actually like leftovers from Cleveland Avenue. I'm really interested in the way that like if a song is written for one band and then ends up getting used for another band, what's that like process like? Is there any sort of discussion that goes on there with the other bands?
For me, uh, because like going into Cleveland, I was there for the 2 singles that we did directly following the Things Better Left Unsaid being released. And so we went in and we did Lucy and we did Colors. I had written Colors like a front to back, and Lucy was one that they had been working on, for a little while prior to me even joining the band. They had it in the back pocket for a long time. And so we go to the studios and we put those 2 out, and that's cool. Following that, pretty much everything that Cleveland was looking at were things that I had just kind of like bunked down in my garage and wrote. And so I had this 2-week span in March of last year where I wrote like it ended up being like 10 or 11 songs and like in like 2 weeks. And I threw them into a pile and I was like pitching stuff to Cleveland left and right. And a lot of Cleveland ended up taking, and the other half they ended up not taking. And so that half that I ended up not taking, I actually started an entire different band. I was going to start this other band called Bella Noir with some friends that had actually already been in Meridia at one point. I kind of wanted a project where I could just spit fire, put music out as fast as I could comfortably write it. And then that ended up falling through. So it was, I had all these extra songs And then I ended up leaving Cleveland Avenue. And when I did, I took a lot of the stuff that we were looking at. Cleveland Avenue was going in a different direction, so I took all of my stuff with me, and ended up saying, well, I still have these 10 songs that are still really good, and I want to put them out. I don't want to let them go to waste. So the version of Meridia that we had at the time, we were still called Echo Point at the time. And so we sat down, we looked at those, and we kind of made a plan for, we could put these 5 out as the EP, and then you could put these 2 together, and you could follow it up with these as singles. And there's a certain trajectory for style that I kind of want to hit over the course of our releases, because I have so much planned up, and I want to be able to do like a smooth transition. So we ended up looking at it and thinking, well, starting from this point, this pop punk point, and growing into a sound from there is going to make a nicer, smoother projection. So we ended up, a lot of it was pretty much me going back and forth 1,000 times trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I'm still going back and forth with them
and confirm.
Trying to figure out exactly what I want to do, and I'm probably making them tear their fucking hair out.
Just making sure, as we are recording this for the audience at home, the EP comes out tomorrow as we're recording this. Or just not the EP, the
show.
The show is tomorrow.
The show is tomorrow.
And then when does the EP come out?
The EP has been a massive victim of Murphy's Law. So
all right, let's get into that question then, because I have heard this is your guys' first EP. Obviously, every band's first EP goes completely flawlessly, and there are no problems whatsoever. So I'd love for you to describe just the just road of rainbows and candy canes that you guys have been walking on while creating this EP.
It's been a walk in the park.
Sipping my Diet Coke before we answer this one.
Oh my god, I need wine. I'm gonna get wine. Is that okay? I'm gonna get wine.
Pause this and get wine. I've been smoking since we started, babe.
The emotional support beverage.
I am fully prepared to expose my pajama pants.
Hell yeah, baby.
Yeah, it's been a process.
It's been a couple processes, quite literally. So, all right. Okay, so when we first took on this EP, we were like, okay, we weren't expecting it to be a year and a half in the making. We're like, okay, we'll throw these together. These are pretty complete songs instrumentally. PJ will give us the skeletons and give us a little bit of a leash to fuck with things. Here's the thing, PJ writes good songs, so we don't normally have to do a whole lot. So the songs are pretty much 90% faithful to what PJ had down. So there wasn't much work to do, but obviously lyrics and all that, and we had Kevin doing vocals at the time. So we were writing lyrics from scratch, and then we were like, okay, well, let's just self-produce it. Let's get this out. And then we kind of had a lot of trial and error, mostly error in kind of the recording process. We would record sometimes in the room, but then we'd also record remotely just at our houses, which when you're using different interfaces and shit, different we record with direct at the Line 6 Helix. PJ and I were using different tones and everything. Neither of us really knew what we knew now about the unit. And then just in general, when you transfer things from different machines, files get corrupted, things don't line up right away. So we went through, if we're including this round, the final revisions, we've probably done 5 or 6 re-recordings of the EP, honestly.
At least.
Yeah, at least. And then
Adam did drums twice, and then we ended up doing program drums.
Yeah. So, and then also in that time period, we had yet more lineup changes because obviously we had brought in Ellie, and then we went mostly back to square one with the vocals, but a lot of Kevin's original work actually did make it on there, which I'm really happy about, because Kevin had a pretty good start. But yeah, and then when Ellie came in, it was the shot in the arm that we kind of needed to really fucking bring everything to the next level, because instrumentally these songs are sick. And then when you have fucking Ellie's voice on there, it's goddamn. So we had a lot of it was good for good change. Obviously bringing on someone like Ellie.
Listen to those singles, Ellie. Don't be covering your face now.
Yeah,
he's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Oh God, I have the worst. I'm I don't even know.
Look at me.
Not yeah, literally. I'm just oh.
Yeah.
I'm
You'll take my compliments and it, goddamn it.
Yeah. I don't know what's wrong with me. And I think the secret sauce that is Meridia at this point, this iteration, is really just mine and Peach's imposter syndrome.
Sipping the head, dog.
Oh yeah, smoking that imposter pack here. But yeah, just
Seriously.
to kind of
I'm
put a
cracking
bow.
open a new card as we speak.
Oh yeah, a Dart Father. Yeah. So to kind of put a bow on like where that kind of led us as far as recording. So we got into a point where we're like, okay, well, this whole DIY shit isn't really working. So we like reached out to producers to like try to, you know, get them at least mixed and mastered. Like, so we still did the recording ourselves. And then that's when we did like the real, like, okay, we're going to do this better now. So we recorded on like one machine in the same room. We were taking DIs. I spent like 3 hours cooking up helix tones. So like we had everything from our end pretty bulletproof, but then just, you know, time frames just weren't working out with like the producers and all that shit like that, which is, you know, we totally get, like, we're, you know, everyone has been good sports about it and all that, but it's like, goddamn, like you got more setbacks. And then kind of in that time, like Adam, like his mixing and mastering abilities like really just started to take off. And, you know, after we sort of split with the last producer, Adam was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. And yeah, here you go, now you have an EP.
And he
Big
crushed
shout
it.
outs to Adam, who
crushed it.
has produced Change in Scenery, produced the old Razzle Dazzle. He's working on getting everything sorted out for the rest of the EP right now. So, like, with you know, going to a few different people now, and you know, haven't been able to get a result. I know he's like in the band or whatever, but very grateful.
Whoever
for
heard
him.
of a band producing their own music? That's disgusting.
Right.
That's granted, like I do like enjoy the recording process. Like,
Oh, I will share because it was so heartbreaking, and because like, so I ended up recording all the vocals here in my apartment. What's sad is that I purchased a Slate ML1 emulating microphone for the EP, specifically for the EP, so that I could get like the best microphone to like if we're gonna go full production, right? Like this, or so full self-production, like let me get the best mic I can. It's just gonna sound so smooth. I can like emulate some classic 87. It'd be great. My cats tipped the mic stand and broke the mic the first day I used it. So I had to use my Shure SM7B.
for those who
Anyway.
don't know gear, the mic that she mentioned first, all you need to know is expensive.
And then I ended up, it was this whole thing because I bought it off of Reverb. Don't buy anything with really fancy plug-in stuff connected to it on Reverb. Don't do it. Buy it new.
It's a threat.
PSA.
If there's any lesson to be taken from the story of Meridia, it seems to be that the gear doesn't necessarily matter that much.
I mean, you're talking to like probably the biggest gear nerd that any of these people know, because like I
That's
agonize
fair.
over shit like that. Like I
couldn't tell it by the periphery flag in the background, buddy.
There's a couple of them actually. There's 3. But yeah, it's like I when we like decided on this new process, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go through the Helix, mix and match cabinets and amps, and like get just the best 4 heavily distorted tones I can get. And then as like, okay, I'm grabbing Old Reliable, the PRS Custom 24 that's done literally everything with me, and like the one guitar I have that PJ will play sitting down because he doesn't like these. I see that look. Like the recording process since then has been really fun because like I love like bouncing shit off like with Adam and all that, and like trying just like little like studio like ear candy, like spice racking the parts. Like that shit's really, really fun, and just adding in like little layers. So the new process has been enjoyable, albeit time consuming, and we're not happy that we have to do it.
Yeah, we will never ever self-produce ever again.
Yeah, this one time's enough.
After the avalanche of bullshit anything that we have tried to do has caused. Next time we're gonna go sit on some dude's couch, play a couple little songs, and just let God work the rest out.
Small anecdote: I have 2 cats, one fat one regular one, and I have to like keep them separated when they eat.
You gotta keep them separated.
That's all. That's all.
There's always, whenever you have 2 cats, it's always like there's the one like spry, like energetic one, and the one that just wants to fuck off and sleep.
Mm-hmm.
He knows both of those. I'm
Yeah.
surprised he hasn't come to say hi yet.
I'm surprised too.
Yeah, no, Nico's home. Nico and Taylor are here, so that's probably keeping him at
Mm.
bay. He usually greets me as soon as I walk in, but I didn't see him yet. I don't know. He might come over. Last time I had to sit down to get my laptop when I had a job interview, he was like biting my ankles the whole time.
He's a wild man. He will like he'll nip
Literally,
at your feet. Yeah, he's
he's feral.
Take a
He's
look at
literally
this
wild.
real quick. This is what my cat Wyatt did to me when I first got him for the first like 6 months that I had him when he wasn't neutered.
Real.
Wait, those are scars?
Yeah, baby. I'm autistic as hell, so I do pick at my scabs. So like this is partially my fault, but also, bruh.
Dude, that's rough. Cats
he's-
are metal as hell. Let me
They
tell
really
you.
are.
I've had
They're
some
nature's
good
perfect
ones.
killing machines, just made
Mhm.
stupid.
They're little
Mhm.
fucking delinquents.
Yeah, like because Tino was feral, and like we don't get it because he's not very smart. He's not very fast. Like, how did he? We don't know like how he made it. Like, we've always wondered. Like, I forget who mentioned it, but they're like, "Yo, you ever wondered what Tino's kill count is?"
What's the KD, bro?
Yeah, with this Katie, it's got to be pretty decent. He made it this long to get fucking pampered for the rest of his life.
That's our fault, though. We see the thing and we see that it's cute and like, oh, I will be your slave for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I mean, look, when
Yeah.
he gets a hold of you, if he wants to fuck you up, he will fuck you up. So I guess that's what he has. But like, he's pretty easy to evade.
In your guys' Twitter bio, it says like a mix of post-hardcore and pop-punk. Peach, from what it sounds like, you guys are, and from what I've also just heard about this EP is probably going to be the most like pop-punk sounding thing that you guys put out. It's going to lean more into like the post-hardcore side of things. There seems to be a trend of like almost exclusively pop-punk bands, at least in this scene, kind of shifting gears and going into other directions. I know Cut Your Losses, their album that they put out this year, they've said is their like swan song to their pop punk era. What is it that you think is like making people kind of want to leave pop punk behind besides, you know, all of the bad things?
Yeah.
We can just skip
Besides
over that.
everything.
I can add on
Besides
to this. I
everything
can add on to this when
about
PJ's done.
every person in the scene.
Dean like usually has the most to say about that. I feel.
I'll let PJ tackle this one first because these are his songs, but I
It's
can add
true,
on
yeah.
considerably.
I don't know. I feel like to me, it kind of feels almost like a regularly scheduled exodus. I feel like pop punk as a whole has seen this happen a few times over its history, where it's one of those things that I think comes in and out, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Because when you have those outs and those bands start and do other things, a lot of them will bring you shit that's really, really cool. So I'm always a fan of seeing bands do something different within a certain reason. I'm still picky as hell. I'm 100% a your old shit was better kind of guy. But I'm also a big believer that you can only do the same thing so many times. And I think pop punk in and of itself is, you know, the kind of place that, you know, it's a good starting point. It's a good place to build from. You know, I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, for what my style is and what I like to do, I think there's so much more to be done in the span of 3.5 minutes, and you only get, you know, you only get 5 opportunities in EP or 10 or 12 opportunities in LP to do something cool with those 3.5 minutes 5 or 6 times or whatever it is. And for me, anything that ends in core is probably something that I fuck with really hard, and I'm taking some piece of it in some way or another and trying to force it into this clusterfuck of influences that I'm stuck with.
I would
And
describe
then,
what you guys are doing right now as very much easycore.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a starting out point, but again, that's, you know, that was also coming from a point where I was also trying to write something that was going to be, you know, I was trying to write for Cleveland at the same time. And a lot of that pokes through in what you get with Scenery. There is a couple of tracks on there that even when I was writing them, I kind of had a feeling that Cleveland wasn't going to take them because they felt so much more like me than they did like Cleveland.
All right, Dean, start your rambling about why pop punk sucks.
Okay, so here's the thing, because it kind of does tie to like what BJ was saying about how like it comes and goes. I think we're hitting that point where it's going, because when I like really started getting obsessive into pop punk, now like I grew up loving like metal like from the 80s and shit, and then also just what was happening in 2000s like with Avenged and like Bullet for My Valentine, and then obviously like at the time like I was listening to Paramore and My Chem nonstop. Nothing has changed. Let's get that out of the way here first. But like kind of coming out of like the late 2000s and then going in like the early 2010s, that's kind of when like the what probably the current wave of pop punk that's dying, that's kind of when that was like coming about. So like story so far, Neck Deep, State Champs, like that shit, and like that lightning in a bottle from the early 2000, like the early 2010s, I think is like that shit is just go to god tier. Like early like Knuckle Puck up to like Copacetic, fucking the first two State Champs records, the first two, Story So Far records, like that was awesome. And then that sort of started the current wave. And like especially as like those bands kind of drift away, like it's starting to just become stale again. I think that's probably just ultimately what's happening. It's just that lightning in a bottle that they call it is just going away. And like the bands themselves know it, like probably know it too. Like the Story So Far, I know they released a song recently. Haven't listened to it yet, I won't lie to you.
I
But
think
like Proper Dose, like dude, like is there even a fucking D beat in that record?
I called what Proper Dose started like the Flower Boy era of pop punk with like your Grayscale or like fucking
Yeah,
I don't know.
Grayscale
I
is
guess
just
Sleep
kinda
On It counts.
like,
We're not gonna
kinda
talk about fucking Sleep
yeah,
On It
ooh,
though.
that's another one we
it's
can
kind
kinda
of like
consider.
this like pop punk with like an indie sensibility to it. That's like
A little
starting to
bit,
become more popular a little bit.
like a little bit of that, and
Front
also
bottom
like
Z type shit.
Yeah.
yeah,
But
it's like a little bit of that, and then also
I
just like an emphasis on like so like pop type production too. Like a lot of new pop punk is very heavily produced, and I just kind of don't really fuck with that.
I think that like as I look at artists that are coming into the mainstream now, and like what some of the like radio people are doing, even a lot of that, I'm seeing a lot more experimentation happening. I'm seeing a lot more like less structure driven songs, more like as much as there is like cookie cutter shit, there's also a lot of shit that's like really different and like like I'm hearing Caroline Polachek at the grocery store and I'm like,
Love Caroline.
whoa, like I think that there's just more interesting music coming into like the main consciousness of everybody. And I think it's because like just the nature of being an artist now is so much more entrepreneurial and independent, and like everybody has access to whatever music they want at their fingertips with streaming. And so I think that like everyone's tastes are just collectively becoming more eclectic. And I think as a byproduct of that, like power chords and like all of the things that make pop punk so like delicious and like wonderful, that like make people eat it up, right, are the same things that make it derivative and boring.
Yeah, because like at this, like all the while, like we say, like it's kind of like getting stale.
Yeah.
I hate to talk about him and give him more press, but like yeah, you can kind of like credit MGK a little bit. He brought
Mhm.
that.
I will still defend that Tickets to My Downfall is a good album, and if anybody else made it, that it would be fine.
That's great, bestie. Keep that shit to yourself. I don't fuck with him.
No, fuck him completely. I still stand by if Uzi made that album, people would love the shit out of it.
I can't say I've ever like consciously listened to Uzi. I can't confirm or deny. All I know is when MGK does it, it's kind of ass.
Yeah.
But like it's just kind of like that was kind of already coming in, like when sort of that early 2010s phase of pop punk was like starting to tail off. And then you had like Story So Far and shit was like starting to kind of drift off a little bit from that too. And then just the general like kind of emo nostalgia was sort of coming back in. And then MGK just kind of took like all of the derivative elements of that and like brought it back. And then kind of as a result, like if you go on TikTok and like look up pop punk, you're gonna hear the worst shit you've ever heard in your life.
No,
Yeah.
definitely. Like the emo nostalgia thing.
Yeah,
Like when I think Neopunk FM made a video about this where they're just talking about like emo night and when we were young fest and like the Emo's Not Dead cruise or whatever. It is just like it's new yacht rock essentially, where it's just another nostalgia circuit thing.
Yeah, because
I will say,
go ahead.
as someone actively in a cover band, actively in an emo cover band that like is intending to pay homage to this scene and to this music that like we all grew up on. It is really disheartening because I can't tell you how many songs we've learned that are classics to us, like to kids who like grew up on the shit. Like, you know, there's like songs by Brand New, songs by AFI, like all these artists that like seriously like paved the way for the music that we see today. And you'll play Seosin to a full house and people are walking away to the bar.
Yeah.
And there's so much of like, I think that Haley Williams and like maybe some other people addressed this at when we were young, but the nostalgia is super cool and like it's great to be able to like play to packed houses because there's so many people who want to hear this music. But at the same time, you do feel like a little bit of a traitor to yourself and to like the kid that you were in high school, you know.
It's all the
getting
people,
picked
all the
on.
people like going, all the people going to these types of things, and this is somebody who frequents like emo nights and beauty
That's
bar
how we met. That's
often.
literally how we met.
It's how we met. Literally, it's how I met Dean. Literally, it is 100% for people who like heard Fall Out Boy songs on the radio, but were never depressed.
Right. Or like, you know, like we were just, I don't know, like I just remember being mocked so heavily and so like outcasted by everyone for like being the kid in black t-shirts and like dark makeup. And like, I just always remember like it not being okay and it always being like stigmatized. And then suddenly like all the normies are like, being emo is cool. And I'm like, really? Because you guys used to say that we like all self-harmed and you guys used to like make videos mocking us and the music that we listened to. Yeah, like that wasn't cool. Like I remember that. I was actually emo back then and it wasn't cool. And like it's just kind of it's just kind of shitty to see it be I guess commodified.
Yeah,
and commercialized when it was like the antithesis of commercialization in the first place.
This is something I've been thinking about for a minute now because Dean and I, we were both at the Citizen 10-year anniversary of Youth tour. And what I loved about that tour specifically is, like, everybody who was in... This is going to get real dark. Everybody who was in there has had a point where they thought they were not going to make it to the 10-year anniversary of Citizen's Youth.
Oh, that show was nuts. Like... I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but like that was the loudest I've ever heard like a packed house sing to like every song. It was nuts. Like that's all I'll say about it. Like, you can tell like a lot of that meant a lot to the people who were there.
And I'll compare that to in 2017, I saw Paramore at Riot Fest, and I remember I was in the back and then I crowd surfed to the front near the end. And I remember I just hear like these 30-year-olds just being like, oh, they're just playing way too much of the new album. And the new album at that time was After Laughter, which is
their
still
best
probably
record.
the best thing they've ever put out. And it's their best record. It's all the people. It literally, like, there's no appreciation for the growth of that kind of stuff, for like the growth of the band. And because
even for This Is Why is an amazing album.
I've seen that album. I've seen them perform on this tour twice. It's incredible.
It's fucking insane. It's insane. And yeah, like you'll see like people in the comments and they're like, I wish it sounded like Riot. And it's like, you compare Riot to an album like After Laughter or This Is Why, like the musicianship is just night and day.
They're
like,
also literally children.
Yes.
Look me in my eyes, audience, and audio listeners, listen up. Riot isn't as good as you remember it being.
It's really fucking good because like Paramore has a flawless discography, but like I can't listen to that without like realizing, yeah, you can tell they were like 17.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Like here's the thing, because I kind of have like a kind of a complex like feeling on that, because like there's a fine line to walk between acknowledging and like paying tribute to the past, but also being like, hey, we can also kind of leave that shit back there to a degree. Like we can take that and then grow from it, but what's happening a lot is people want to like regress to it. That's, I think, where the error is really coming, is instead of just, looking back on it fondly and taking what you can from it, people are just like, no, we just want to go back. And I don't fuck with that.
Yeah. Yeah, there has to be a place for growth. And also, like, genre is one of those things that's ever evolving. New genres come up all the time. And as going back to our music, as it relates to our music, I think one of the things that's really cool about us is that all of us collectively listen to so many different things. I mean, like Dean and I like fuck really hard with Ethel Kane,
Oh, I love
and
that.
like
I love Ethel.
like I love Boy Genius. Like I love so many artists that aren't even adjacent to what we do. But I think that that's like listening to more music and listening to different genres is like, and bringing that to like what you do is like one of the coolest things about making your own music. And there are songs on A Change in Scenery that I would argue change genre 4 or 5 times
Yeah.
throughout the song because we just don't care. Like we're making music that speaks to us, that is reminiscent of things that we love. And I think it's super genuine. And I think like as long as you're doing that, fuck
Yeah.
it.
Kind of to tack onto that, like just from hearing the reactions of people who have heard like the singles I've released and like the people who have heard what has yet to come out, like everyone's like, okay, you can tell that there's like a pop punk center here, but most of the people who I've like shown this stuff to, like they can tell like something else is going on there. And like I think that's kind of like a good summation and kind of what our goal is with this EP. Like it's a pop punk jumping off point, but you could tell there's more.
Big things coming soon.
Big, as they say, big things coming soon. Stoked to announce.
Very excited. You were talking about how much you guys all listen to. We're going to get into that in a little bit right after this break that we're going to take. Right after this, Meridia is going to be building their own dream tour. Stick around. We'll be right back. Today's episode is sponsored by the CUDDLEPUNK Podcast Patreon. I've been doing these videos for 2 years, and while I absolutely love it, I've also never made a dime doing it. If you want to help make sure I can keep making these, then head on over to patreon.com/thecuddlepunk podcast to become a member today. $3 a month gets you a special shout-out in each episode, and $5 a month gets you the shout-out plus access to episodes 1 day early. Thanks to my current patrons, Susan, Claire, Gail Mack, and Tara Hallett. Once again, that's patreon.com/thecuddlepunk podcast. And now, back to the show. Welcome back to the CUDDLEPUNK Podcast. We are still here with Meridia. We were just talking about the varied musical stylings that they all enjoy listening to, and now we're going to get to know a little bit more about that. Today, we are going to have Meridia build a tour. So what I've had them do is I've had them select a number of bands, and I've arranged them all. From headliner, sub-headliner, mid-tier, features, and openers. I'm going to have them select one band from each tier, and we are going to build a tour around what we've got so far. I think it would be best if we if we went with the openers first. We have Alisana, Sea Space Cowboy, Emil and the Sniffers, the Dallas Cowboys, and When We Was Kids.
Callous Cowboys. You said the
Cowboys.
Callous Cowboys.
I said Dallas Cowboys, didn't I?
You did say Dallas Cowboys.
Dean's trying to have the cheerleaders open.
Yeah. It's just a bunch of cheerleaders playing mathcore.
I swear to God, Dean, half of your Twitter is Ethel, and the other half is Callous Cowboys at this point.
Yeah, I stand the fuck out of them. They're the best band I've discovered in years. I fucking can't wait to see them in October.
Who's jumping out to everybody?
Okay, so I know like PJ and I agree on Alisana.
I love Alisana. So
Locked in, booked.
Yeah,
we'll go
Alisana for that one. I think that'll be the easy one.
I will say, so firstly, as far as these selections go, When We Was Kids is an amazing
they're awesome.
band. Amazing.
I need to talk to them. I saw them.
Honestly, you do.
And I saw them open for Nora Marks on New Year's Day. They were fucking incredible.
Yeah, when we was there, PJ showed them to me not too long ago.
They're so
fucking, they're
stupid good.
bonkers. Like
Stupid
I
good.
didn't realize who they were. Like I'm friends with like the vocalist on Facebook. So like PJ mentioned the name. I was like, why does that sound familiar? And then yeah, just they're fucking insane. He has no idea who I am.
That's a very Chicago thing, is to just like be friends with somebody that you completely forgot about on Facebook, and then like you'll find out that they fronted one of your favorite bands that you've been listening to for a little
If
bit.
you have like an instrument in your profile picture, it happens.
It does. Gonna move on to the features now. We have La Dispute, Ethel Kane, Seosin, A Lot Like Birds, and Satyr.
I'm fighting for Ethel here. I'm fighting.
Are we
Oh,
going
but you
for
got
like a multi-genre type of thing, like
but you got
multi-vibe type of thing?
Seosin and La Dispute in there.
Fuck you guys! You got a lot like birds in there.
I'm
We'll get to your
digging.
swan core later on, buddy.
I'm digging my heels in for Ethel. I'm sorry.
I'm digging my heels in for anything but Ethel.
I
What are we gonna do about this? You want to flip a coin? I got a pick. You want to flip a pick?
I can
Peach.
pick. I didn't say anything about the.
I don't
Peach.
trust PJ enough. I think V should do this. V's the new.
What am I
Chicago.
gonna do?
All right.
Why?
All right.
That's what she'll do.
All right. So
All right. Hear me out. Hear me out. Okay. All of us like La Dispute. All of us like Seosin.
They're okay.
Shut the fuck up, Dean.
What? Okay, well, I think since all of us like La Dispute, right? Not all of us like Ethel Kane. I don't even know who A Lot Like Birds is. I don't know who Satyr is.
I feel like PJ's anger is about to get turned on.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I don't know who that is. I don't know who that is. So I'm gonna have to say, like, if we're collectively as a band building a tour, it's gonna have to be Seosin or La Dispute, is what I'm saying.
So Ellie's going for La Dispute or Seosin. Peach is going for A Lot Like Birds. Dean is going for Ethel Kane. Here
I will
for Ethel Kane.
I will move into the Seosin boat.
Okay.
Here,
And that's
it's two
What's
against
that?
one. It's
But we have to clarify, this is Anthony Green Seosin, not Koa Forever Seosin.
so it's one EP.
Yeah.
That's honestly that's very
Yeah.
on brand. That'll get PJ to agree.
Their
Yeah.
old shit was better.
Is it the mixtape that was like recorded in like a garage? That's the one.
Even
Well,
better.
it's like
To be a-
They got a newer album with Anthony on there.
PJ don't care.
Nah.
Here's my thing. I personally, just to put my 2 cents in, because the three of you are gonna have to like set your thing. Like you three are gonna have the main decision at the end of the day.
Yeah,
My
Dean.
T-girl loyalty is telling me to go for Ethel, but, and this is a fun fact that I will tell you guys, I was so sad last year that not only were La Dispute my #1 artist of last year, I was in their top 2% of listeners.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. I'm
2022
not gonna lie
sucked,
to
bruh.
you. Yeah. You
I
told me
love
that the night we
Dispute.
met, and I was
Condolences.
I
like,
did.
dog, are you okay?
This
Yeah.
is why I initially said, it goes back to my original point of why we should all just pick La Dispute, because that's a band we actually all really like.
I would begrudgingly compromise for La Dispute.
All right.
I don't have a gavel, but I got a little bit of toilet paper here. So
Good.
That's
because
a
you're
lot of
full
dispute.
of shit.
That might have been the very saddest like selection of bands that we had. I think the rest of them, there are at least some like dancey happy songs.
that was the Prozac.
And also La Dispute, by virtue of the fact that like lyrically I am so like inspired by Jordan's storytelling and his like just like his ability to like paint a picture.
That's real.
It's
He may be the
he's
very
so
best like pure storyteller.
he's
maybe
so good.
working today. Mid-tier bands, we have Periphery, Counterparts, Stand Atlantic, Story So Far, and specifically the Johnny Craig era of Emarosa is what PJ said, which is understandable, but still it's a real like brave choice you're making there, Peach.
So So here's the part that made me laugh about PJ's choices is that he put pre-Tillian Dance Gavin Dance, which means Johnny Craig Dance Gavin Dance, and then also Emarosa Johnny Craig era. So Johnny Craig would be performing 2 sets.
I like all of these bands. The one thing I do really want to get on my high horses about is that the new Story So Far logo sucks, and I hate it.
Yeah, it's lame.
It's not good. Look at this. This was perfect.
Yeah,
I love that logo.
That rocks way
One of
harder.
the best logos of the entire 2010s. This was perfect. Why did they change it?
Biblically accurate, the story so far.
Damn, I'll drink my Baja Blast to that one.
Who are we leaning towards
Okay,
here?
so here's the thing. Periphery is my favorite band of all time, but I have seen them enough to where I'd be willing to compromise for something else. Like I don't really know Emarosa very well, but like everyone else I fuck with pretty good. I mean, Counterparts was one of my fucking picks. So like I'd probably
Dean, were you at the emo night where the Stand Atlantic just showed up?
Yeah, Bonnie was there drunk as shit. I didn't even go to the show, but I got to see a very drunk Bonnie request. What did she request?
She requested the meme song for
No,
all
it
of us.
was,
She requested fucking Lips of an Angel by
it
Hinder,
was
which
Lips
was
of
the
an
meme
Angel.
song of that friend
Yeah.
group for that entire winter.
That was awesome. That was so fun bragging about that at like the next Meridia practice. That ruled. So, but to get back at hand,
I love Bonnie. I love like her. Like she has had a huge, and Haley Williams and Bonnie Fraser both have had a very massive impact on me as a vocalist. I'm sure you can hear that.
What are you talking about?
But okay, I love Periphery. I love Counterparts. I really actually love all of these bands. If
Yeah,
I
this is a
had to
good one.
choose, if I had to knock one off, just on like stage performance and like show vibes alone, I would probably knock off the Story So Far.
If we're talking early stories so far, because here's the thing I'd like to bring up. So if we can single out that era of Emarosa, can we also specify the first 2 records of Story So Far then?
We're talking pre kicking off the stage.
No, this was. I mean, technically, yeah, because
we love that video.
Yeah, I mean, we
it's
love
a great
it.
video
we
where nothing
used,
wrong happens at all.
I mean, we basically used that for the fucking reel that we posted today.
Literally.
But
literally.
So, I mean, I'm not gonna act like that changes my answer because, like, I'm still gonna pick Periphery and Counterparts over anyone here. I think of the bunch, the band that we probably all would agree on would be Counterparts. I think.
Peach doesn't like Periphery.
I don't think PJ. Do you like Periphery? I never asked you.
I could take them or leave them. I just they're not. They're a band.
Yeah.
I think we could all agree. I think you're right. I think we could all agree on Counterparts.
I think Counterparts would be like the one.
I think that's the only thing we're gonna have a mild level of agreement on.
Yeah.
We are going with Counterparts here, everybody. Alrighty, another very interesting
sick set already.
Yeah, this
It's a really good set. I would see the fuck out of this set. This feels like a stage at Riot Fest, like just one day, one stage at Riot Fest. We have Boy Genius, Glassjaw, Bring Me the Horizon, Silverstein, and pre-Tillian Dance Gavin Dance. I am a big fan of the Tillian era, but I'm also now not a fan of any era of Dance Gavin Dance.
Hey, I fuck heavy with Kurt Travis.
Kurt is good. Kurt's good boy.
If we're going based off just like their little voices, Kurt's my favorite.
Their Dance Gavin Dance's discography is cursed in the way of, at least pre-Tillian, their best written 2 records are the ones that Johnny Craig got. They're at a disadvantage for that. For this particular tier. I think, especially considering the bands that have already been booked, I think Silverstein's the most sensible thing there.
Really quickly, I'm gonna make a switch because I've realized something has gone terribly wrong. What we're not going to do is pretend that Under Oath is bigger than Bring Me the Horizon.
You know, that's very real.
So we're now at Boy Genius, Glassjaw, Under Oath, Silverstein, Dance Gavin Dance.
I'm picking Under Oath, and it's not really easy. It's not really hard for me.
Yeah.
I'm going Under Oath. I mean, Ellie and I met at Under Oath.
Okay,
actually.
So Glassjaw is like one of my favorite fucking bands of all time. Absolutely of all time. But yeah, like if I'm going based off of like if I'm thinking about like our music and I'm thinking about like the people I'm in a band with, I'm gonna go with Under Oath or Silver
Yeah.
Steamer. Mm-hmm.
I think we're all in agreement on Under Oath.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, and Ellie, that's where you and I first met.
Literally, actually. Yeah.
Under Oath, Bad Omens, and Stray from the Path at Radius.
And it was supposed to be Under Oath, Spirit Box, and Every Time I Die.
Yeah,
Which
fucking
Every Time I Die,
too.
also another incredible like post-hardcore band that fucking
big rip. Oh man.
Dude, they released their best album of all time. And
Yeah.
then they're like, bye, we're done. Oh,
honestly, that was the record that made me like, okay, yeah, this band rules.
I already know what the headliner is going to be. I don't even need to.
Yeah,
we don't even need to talk
think
about that.
we've got let's read it out just to be fair to everybody. We have Bring Me the Horizon, Fiona Apple, Avenged Sevenfold, Paramore, and then just My Chemical Romance. Where do we think we're going with these bands that we've already selected?
It's My Chem.
1, 2, 3.
My
Chemical Romance.
My Chem.
How many of y'all were at the absolute disaster that was My Chemical Romance at Riot Fest last year?
Ellie stayed at my house that entire weekend.
Yep. Yeah,
it was so disappointing, and it wasn't
dangerous.
It was the fans' fault. Like, this was a year after Astroworld. Gerard was in full dad mode.
Yeah.
He had to stop. First of all, he was just like fucking Audrey Hepburn, and bless.
Dog bless.
Dog bless.
Second, why are you making our emo father stop the show after every song? Like, Dean and I were talking about it. Like, how many more songs could they have played if they didn't need to stop the show?
They could have played like probably like 2 or 3 more at least.
I blame the booking entirely for that, because there's no reason why in the Midwest you should only have 2 My Chemical Romance shows, one of which being at a festival and one of which being in fucking Detroit.
Yeah.
You needed a Milwaukee show. You needed a Minneapolis show.
And Riot Fest like way oversold the tickets because of the pandemic.
Absolutely.
Like, it got canceled, and then they just like kept selling tickets. So by the time like everyone was actually there to see Taking Back Sunday and My Chemical Romance, it was just like hog fucking wild. And literally, like, we started at one point in the crowd and somehow like got airlifted like to another section like throughout the course of the night. Like,
we were pretty close, honestly.
You don't feel like there's nothing like I've never been to a festival and like genuinely felt unsafe for my life.
I was about to say, it is the first time I've ever felt unsafe at Riot. I've been going to Riot Fest since I got here from Massachusetts in 2017. It's the only time I've ever felt unsafe at Riot Fest.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, like, the crowd, like that was as much as like the crowd was dangerous and I despised it and I hate going to festivals. I do that again like 7 days a week, twice on Saturday, because I just love My Chem that much. Like, My Chem, like that was a dream come true, and I'm not letting a fucking emo Astroworld get in the way of that. Like, that was a dream come true. They were perfect.
They were.
Everybody, Meridia's hottest new tour of 2011 is Alisana, La Dispute, Counterparts, Under Oath, and My Chemical Romance.
That's a pretty solid fucking festival, honestly.
I would watch the shit out of that tour. I'd follow that tour for years. Meridia, thank you guys so much for being on the very first episode of the CUDDLEPUNK podcast. Where can we find you guys individually and as a band?
You can find our band at meridiachicago.com. All of our socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, are all Meridia Chicago. I myself can be found at Ellie fucking Cole on every platform as well. It's like FCKM. You're like Mozzarella on Twitter or something?
Yeah, I'm Mozzarella on Twitter, but like
That's what it is.
Yeah, because
I've been trying to figure that out for months.
Yeah, it's my last name, but cheese. It's a joke I stole from my brother, like fucking like probably like 12 years ago now. Like, he went to here's the backstory behind that. Like, he went to like a Halloween party in high school or some shit like that, and he just wore like a gas station jumper that said Rella on it, and he was like, because we're mozzarella. So I've stolen that since then. I don't think I've ever told him, but yeah. So like my tag on Twitter is that, spelled my last name Matza Rella, but the E is a 3 because someone has the OG one. I'm just waiting for their inactive account to get deactivated. And then I think my Insta is just Dean Matza, but you could also just find me trying to be Brendan Murphy on the band Twitter.
And I don't use personal socials.
Okay, Peach, it's actually so funny that you said that
Yeah.
because of what I tweeted today. And it was like, hold on, I gotta read it now.
This is also a good time to mention that like me and Ellie make up the Barbenheimer that is the Meridia Twitter.
So someone tweeted, Haley, I'm staying off social media, but somehow still know what's being said about Paramore on Twitter, Williams. I said, if Meridia Chicago ever makes it big, just know this will be me and Peach. Hermits, but we see you.
Yeah, PJ will only make himself known on social media when it's something to do with Meridia. Like I've never seen him open up Instagram before until we started posting shit.
And he's,
Yeah,
he's
not my thing.
unironically the TikTok king.
Accidentally.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for being here. This has been fantastic. I appreciate it so much. Thank you guys so much. This has been the first episode of the CUDDLEPUNK Podcast. I will see you guys next time.
Fucking nailed it.